What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. I'm doing Manager from HackTheBox, which features another ADCS attack, which is the Active Directory Certificate Authority Server, specifically the ESC7 attack, where you have the ability to manage the CA and certificates on the server. But before you can get to that, you have to find a user credential. And how we do that is a little bit of brute forcing. A lot of people just did the whole Kerbrute to test for valid users, which means you have to have a big user list and kind of brute force users that way. But on Windows, you can also brute force users by our RID, which is like the remote identifier that is an integer that is sequential. So you don't have to really depend on a word list. It's really reliable to get all the users on the box. And then one of the users has the same password as their username, which is sadly common for a bunch of service accounts. So you use that to gain access into the server. You'll get another credential, and then you can do this ESC7 attack. So let's just jump in. As always, we're going to start off with the Nmap. So -sc for default scripts, -v enumerate versions, OA output all formats, put in the Nmap directory and call it manager. Then the IP address of 10.10.11.236. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we can see a lot of ports open. 13, because it scans 1,000 ports when you don't specify any number. And since there's 987, there's 13 left over. So the first port I see is DNS. And whenever I see simple DNS+, especially with IIS, I look down and see it is indeed Active Directory. So we're dealing with a domain controller. I'm going to add the DNS name, manager.htb, to my host file really quick. And we also see dco1.manager.htb. So let's go sudo v etc host. And then we can say 10.10.11.236 manager dco1. Whoops. I don't know what mode I just went in. Dot that. Oh, I think I hit caps lock. There we go. So we added that. Let's go take a look at everything that we can interact with. We have 80 HTTP. So this is just the website. That's probably going to be where we start. Then we have all like the RPC ports, SMB, LDAP. Scrolling down, we see 1433, which is relatively unique. This is MSSQL, the Microsoft SQL Server. And whenever I see this, I always think of Kerbrute, because normally when you set up a SQL server, you make it run as a different user. And when you do that, you create a service principal name, which is what you use to Kerbrute. If we can pull the hash for that SPN, then we can attempt to crack it. But before you can do Kerbrute, we have to get authentication. We can't just go and grab that SPN as an unauthenticated user, most likely. So let's just keep going down until we find a cred and just keep that in our back pocket. There is a clock skew, so our date is off from the main controller. That's not really interesting now, but when we do Kerbrute stuff, we probably should make sure a clock is in sync. So let's go take a look at the website. So 10.10.11.230, was it 6 I said? We get to manager, and then we can look at the website. Scrolling down, we have an about us. The main thing I'm looking for right now is like a way to get a user, right? Maybe I just see like the CEO and have employees and then build a word list and try to enumerate the user that way. Let's just put a bunch of junk here. The contact form looks like it just goes back to itself. If we scroll to the bottom of the page, this is a testimonial from a user. All these links are pointing back to itself as well. If I click on about, we've seen that service. So nothing interesting here. We can check for like vhost. So if I do manager.htb, we get the same exact site. So at this point, I probably should set up GoBuster to enumerate like various web content. And I should also set up something doing like a virtual host enumeration thing. I'm not spending too much time against it because I did notice it was index.html when you click home. So you know it's not dynamic content, right? If it was like an ASPX server or a PHP, of course we'd start doing more attacks against it, but there's no place for us to send user input, so there's nothing for us to attack. So let's go and think about what we could do. Well, it's got SMB, so we can do like SMB client -capital L 10.10.14. Oh, that's my IP. 10.10.11.236. And then see the shares, and there's no unique shares to this box, at least from an unauthenticated standpoint, so there's nothing we can do there. And I think The next step a lot of people did was they went with the brute force step, which you can do through a tool like Kerbrute. So let's do cp opt Kerbrute this. So I just have this tool. If you don't have it, you can just get it off of GitHub, right? We're going to do user enum, specify the DC of 10.10.11.236. And then the domain, which is manager.htb. And then the word list. And if we want to do usernames, we could do like opseclist users, then Zato top million.txt. And we'll get a bunch of valid users this way. If you wanted to, you could also do this through NetExec. All Kerbrute is doing is something called like a Kerberos pre-authentication. So with NetExec, if you want to do this, we can say NetExec SMB, because there's no like Kerberos option, but we can use SMB and then specify Kerberos. So that way we authenticate to Kerberos and then access SMB. And then we got to specify a username we want. Let's do Ryan, and then just a blank password. And we have to give it the target. So 10.10.11.236. And it's going to say pre-authentication failed if the user exists. If the user does not exist, so if we did like IPSEC, we're going to get a different error, right? Principal unknown. And that's all Kerbrute is doing. It's just brute forcing. And when it doesn't see principal unknown, it says the account exists. Now, there's one other really, really odd behavior, and I think that's with disabled accounts. So if we do guest, we're going to get a clock skew error, right? But if we fixed our time, we'll get the principal unknown. And while I say that, I think KRBTGT is also a disabled account. Does it have a dollar in it? I can't remember. Let's see. Principal unknown. Let's try this. Client revoked. So I don't know exactly what the status of the guest account is, because I think disabled would be client revoked, or maybe you can't do KRBTGT with Kerberos or something. That's just an odd error, right? But let's go back to guest. And we see clock skew, and we can say NTP date 10.10.11.236 sudo. So we're going to sync our time to the domain controller, so there's no longer a clock skew. And then you're going to see this guest goes over to KDC principal unknown. I don't know exactly why. It's just a fun tidbit to see, I guess. And it did not. It just authenticated. Oh, because guest has a valid password of blank. So we actually succeeded authentication there. We could try guest blank password without Kerberos and then doing -- users. Do we have enough privileges as the guest to query the domain for all the users? No, we do not. So even though we authenticated, guest is just a really odd Windows account. I swear I was expecting to see pre-auth failed. Or unknown prince was what I expected to see. But, oh well. So we fixed our time. We've gone over this whole Kerbruting thing a lot. The better way to do this, not do Kerberos at all. We just do a, we can actually do -h real quick. And if you go up, there is a, let's see, options. Where is it? I'm just going to search it. RID. There we go. The RID Bruteforce. So this is an old technique. I found a lot of people kind of forget about this technique, including myself. And they default all the way to the pre-authentication stuff with Kerberos because it's new and sexy. A lot of people don't log it, so people don't like the default logging of Windows. It's hard to tell that you're doing it, but really, it depends on the word list, so it's not great. A long time ago, if you went to ipsec.rocks, go to the heist video, I explain it probably more in depth there, but we can do a quick 101 of RID brute forcing. So to see it work, we can just do netexec -u -p and RID was it brute? And this will authenticate. We have to give it a user. So we can do the guest user. I think if we did anything there, if it doesn't exist, it would still work. But here we go. We have it now dumping a list of all the accounts. So exactly how does this work, right? If we do RPCClient, we just do 10.10.11.236 dash capital U, guest for the username, enter, we can log in. If you don't want that, how this tool does passwords is it's %. So this will try to log in with the ASD password, which doesn't work. You just put nothing there and boom, you are in. So you can look at all the commands. You don't have privilege to use all of these, but one you do is lookup names. We could also probably do lookup domain. So if we did that, we could say, was it manager.htb, status denied. But if we do lookup names and then specify the name we want, let's go with administrator because that's always a default account. We get its SID, right? And I don't know all these parts. I think this just means it's a SID. This is the revision, which all Active Directory does. I think this is the domain SID, and this is going to be the user right here. So 500 is administrator SID. RID 500 is always going to be administrator, right? We can also use the lookup SIDs. So if we do lookup SIDs, put this SID in, then it's going to tell us that is administrator. And this one tells us it's a user. User accounts generally start at 1,000. We see DC01$. This is a machine account. Machine accounts are also user accounts. They just end in this $. The group managed service account and labs and stuff also, I think, end in dollars as well. It's just a special account that ends in $. So let's go look up a SID 1001, unknown, 1002, 1003, and this is all the brute forcing is doing. Is it's going here, and the default was, I think, 4,000. We can do all ones. I think it's 1113 as a user. There we go, manager Zong, and now we have a valid user, right? So if we go up to this, we can see, let's go to a group. Let's do 512 because this says it's a group. This is a user. So if I do 512, this is now 2 because that is SID type of group. So that's all the RID brute force is doing in crackmap exec. So let's go back to this. I'm going to copy the output. And if I saw this get to like 4,000, then I would probably increase the number in my RID brute force. The default is just 4,000. I bet if I did the -H again, you would see that. Right? Let's go back to RID. We see RID brute. And then if we specified an argument, so we'd add like 6,000 there if we had IDs in the 4,000s. So let's move on. I'm going to do output.text. We could have probably saved this crackmap exec in a better format, but I like just grepping through it, right? So I can just grep this. So let's say I want all users out of it. Then let's go with awk print. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Let's do a second awk. Let's separate on the backslash and do print 2, so we get the second field. Then we can do a sort-u, and we could also like grep-v for everything that ends in $. There we go, because we don't care about machine accounts. So these are all going to be users. So if we did v_users.text, put this in, and now we have a list of usernames without this whole pre-authentication thing. So I think this is better because you don't need a word list to generate the users. Now, the next step is brute forcing the password, and it's a common password of the username is also going to be the password. I don't love this step. It is a little bit guessy, but it is something that I've seen plenty of times in the real world. It sucks when it happens because it takes so long to find, but you live and learn, I guess, right? I'm going to add the no brute force flag. Let's see. No brute force, right? Yep. I was making sure there's no like I did the dashes right. So what this is going to do is when it reads the user file and the password file, it's just going to sequentially go down each of those, specifying it. So if I specify the users and the pass, we'll see it's going to attempt to log in to every account with its username. So we're looking at Chang Chang. We got domain. That is weird. Oh, because I guess that must be a weird account. I don't know if that's an actual account or not. Let's just add -- continue on success. So this way, when we get a success, it's still going to keep on going. Guest, operator, login failure. And I think the issue is casing. So we would have to make this a lowercase. And now I don't exactly love this step. Let's see. There should be a way we can just automatically lowercase this file. I think we could use tr. Let's see. tr lowercase file. Let's go over to Google. I want to enable this. There we go. Upper, lower. Okay. So cat users, pipe. Do that. Then we can move you to users.txt. So if a user list was lowercase, then that whole NetExec step would work. There it is. So let's try this. It's going to authenticate to domain. I think this is just a weird account that I didn't know about, right? But we do have it logging also into operator, protected, SQL, whatever user, DC01. So let's do, let's see. Oh, it's not correct. Map, NetExec, SMB-U. Let's try domain-P domain. And then is it -- shares to list open shares? We need 10, 10, 11, 236. And access denied. Then we could try like the next one. Operator, I think. And this one, we have access. It doesn't look like we have access to anything special though. Another way you could do this, instead of just all the username ID, if you do, what is it? NXCDB, you go into the NetExec database, and then you can say creds, and you can get the cred ID for each of these. So operator was 7. So if we used NetExec, let's just kill that one there. So we can say NetExec, SMB, 10, 10, 11, 236. Let's see. Where is cred? We can just now say -ID and then 6, or this is 7. And now we're going to attempt to log in as the operator. We can do 8 and try to log in as, that is a weird one that succeeds. I don't know. So we have successful authentication. There's no extra shares available to us. But we did see MSSQL, right? So let's try that. We probably have to get rid of that shares. So we can just do 8. Oh, I guess we're in SMB mode, so it only works with SMB creds. That's annoying. So we can say -U. Let's try domain-P domain. Failed for logging in. Operator. And we get logged in with MSSQL. Now, we could run commands this way, but I find like running commands through NetExec, it's very clunky because you don't get like an interactive shell. So for that, I like just going to Impacket. So we'll do MSSQL and then we want to log in. Let's see, what is the syntax for this? Is it -h? Manager / operator, then at 10, 10, 11, 236. And that did not work. Do we say manager.htb? Did I misspell operator? Let's just copy and paste it. Let's see. We're doing something wrong with this. We did target. Let's look at the help again. Oh, we can use Windows Auth. And there you go. Now we get access to MSSQL. We can run help to see things we could do. Let's try XP CMD shell. Who am I? Permission denied. Let's try enable XP CMD shell. We don't have permission to run reconfigure since we're not an administrator. Show databases. Is that a command? Let's see. MSSQL show databases. Or we can do MSSQL cheat sheet. That should be a good search. Sure. Is this going to work? Okay, so let's see. So we're currently master. Let's select the databases. So there's no non-standard databases here, it looks like. So there's nothing really for us to dump. I was hoping there'd be like a web database or something. So if we go back to help, there is XP Directory. And this one doesn't normally require like advanced privileges to run. So we can say XP Directory C:, and now we can read files off the web server. There is inetpub, so we can go there, then www root, and we see in www root there is a website backup. So let's go ahead and download this. So if we just go to the web server, we can download the backup of the web server. And I need to move it to this directory. Let's see. Saved here, I think. What was the name? Website backup. We can unzip it. And, shoot. Let's clean this up real quick. It's my big pet peeve. CSS, images, JS. There we go. Website backup. There we go. So now we have the backup of the web server. And there is a old conf.xml. So let's see what this is. If we cat it, we see there's a credential, Raven. And the password is Raven is the best developer. So let's go back to NetExec and then say SMB 1010 11 236 u Raven -p. Copy this password. And we can log in. We can also do the shares to see if there's any new shares that pop up. I don't think there will be. Normally, you don't really see hidden shares that pop up from a user. You only just see you can't access them. But we can try other methods of logging in. So like WinRM. Can we WinRM to the box? We can. So we can get a shell there. We could try MSSQL. Of course, we can do that as well. I would assume so. It succeeded. It doesn't say prone, so I don't think we're an administrator. We could do that MSSQL command again real quick. Was that in a different pane? So let's try Raven. That sucks. We can just copy this. Let's do Raven. Paste in the password. Help. And what I'm trying here is, can this user enable? Because there's a chance that Raven was a database admin, and then she could enable XP command shell, which then we could potentially get root there, right? Because we do that, we'd normally have the SE impersonate privilege, and from there you would just use like one of the potatoes to privesc. So let's see. We can WinRM, but there is another thing we could check, and we could try like some type of ADCS attack. The box name is manager, so it kind of hints towards certificates. I don't think like there's anything we could do locally on the box that we can't do from our box, right? If you wanted to WinRM, do I have the password here? It would just be like evil WinRM-I 10 10 11 236 Raven-P like this, right? And then we log in. But I don't think there's a command here to tell you this is a certificate authority. It's just one of those things you should check, right? So let's do Certipy, and then we can say find. The user is going to be Raven. The password is Raven's the best developer. Then we specify the DC IP of 10 10 11 236. And then we do standard out and frontable. Helps if I can type. It's just one dash. There we go. So this is going to search for any vulnerable certificate, and we see the Raven has dangerous permission that enables ESC7. So if we Googled like HackTheBox ESC7, we'd come to a guide that tells us pretty much how to do it, I believe. Let's see. Going here. ESC1 explained. ESC7. Let's see. There was a better article I saw, I thought. It's not it. Maybe it was this. I'm just not reading enough of it. Why is that not going dark mode? I have no idea what's going on, but oh well. Let's do ESC7. See, attack 1. Let's see. Manage CA. Approval needed. Okay, so we can grant ourselves the ability to manage certificates. This is really off. So we do the, what was it? Add officer thing. So I'm going to get rid of that. And we're going to change the find, put CA. And then we're going to say the CA is manager DC01 CA. And then add officer Raven. And you get that CA name. It's probably in the standard out, right? Yep, right here, manager DC01CA. So we add the officer Raven, and that's going to allow us to manage CAs. And since we can manage CAs now, we can enable a template. So we could say -enable template sub CA. And if you wanted to, you could list all the templates and know which one. This is just a default one, I believe. It's what the hack trick says to do next. But there is a list templates feature. So it may work on other ones, right? We're just doing the sub CA. And now we want to say on, let's see. On template, oh no, we do need the CA. So on template, sub CA. We're gonna make a request for the UPN, something principal name, maybe universal principal name, but of administrator at manager.htb. So when this generates a certificate, its UPN, which is going to be the username, is going to be set to administrator. It'll probably be Raven's ticket, but since the UPN set to administrator, that's what it uses to log on. And unknown argument. Let's see. We have to make this a request. So we're going to request it. We'll save the private key. And we got an error denied. So the permissions on the certificate template do not allow the current user to enroll, but we can just issue the request. So we don't have permission to create this, but we have permission to force create it, I guess is a way to say this. I don't 100% understand what's going on. But we'll say CA. And then we will say -issue. It's issue request, right? Yep. Issue request 13. And since we're the manager of the CA, that's going to work. Or the officer, maybe it is. Right? So we do this. And we issued the certificate. So now we can go back to the request and say retrieve 13. And now we have administrator.pfx, and this certificate has the principal name of administrator at manager.htb. So if we use this, we will just magically authenticate. Certipy auth, then the pfx and file name. So it's going to reach out to the domain, get a TGT, save the login to the C cache, that's the credential cache, and that's going to be nice and give us the NTLM hash of administrator. Now, if you get a clock skew error, remember to run that ntp date command with 10.10.11.236, and that'll sync your clock because Kerbrute's very specific with time. So we could use this hash. So if we just copy it, we could go like psexec -hashes, specify this, administrator at 10.10.11.236. That's psexec.py. And this is going to get us a psexec session as system, because that's just how the Impacket psexec works, right? It says HOMI because I put the W here. It came in before like the whole prompt built, but we can see system there. If you wanted to, evil winrm would also work, and that'll stay as administrator. So we could say evil winrm I 10.10.11.236 dash capital H for hash, and then U administrator. I'm not sure. I think we just give it NTLM. We don't have to do the LM hash :NTLM. So this one gets us administrator. For some reason, you did not want to be system. So hope you guys enjoy that. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.